The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Scout 6316, 8.8 for 6,000.
Scout 6316, North Yelp Road, so may say 3,000, I'm 1 for the right.
3,000, Scout 6316.
Redwood
Coast. We are coming to you live from the magical cabin, Uncle Jimbo's cabin, sharing multitudinous interdimensional space and time simultaneously between the Pacific Northwest and the Desert Southwest, as it does every weekend here on Spaced Out Radio Weekend on spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, the land of the living dead, and at spacedoutradio.com, the land of the deadly living, on Spreaker, and the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Radio Network. We are so happy that you joined us and that you are listening in tonight. We also want to give thanks to our God of the guitar, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music. Also, you can check us out on Twitter if you are a Twitter bug at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on radioguide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you go to patreon.com, we have some very cool offers for you there. Our listeners, we love you. We want you to have good stuff. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show tonight, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. That's right, it's Space Traveler. It's so cool. We offer some decent swag, and it's our opportunity to give back to you, our valued listener. We also have a news section called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to help you find out what's going on, or just be a good ear to talk to, and everything is kept completely confidential. So tonight, I want to welcome in all the listeners to Cosmic Passport, because I'm going on a rant. That's right. Every so often, one has to go on a rant, because if nobody does it, there aren't enough rants in the world. And you know what happens when there aren't enough rants in the world? It's like gnomes. There aren't rants, there aren't gnomes. Things begin to disappear. We haven't made enough things solid, significant, and real to bug us, to make us annoyed. You know, like the Noid. Remember the Noid? If you're old enough, you will remember what the Noid is. Where's the Noid now? Nobody's been annoyed enough. Well, tonight I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because somebody tried to bait me. They tried to bait me, and they thought they were going to get away with it. And maybe they thought they weren't going to get away with it. Maybe they thought they were just going to poke the bear. And I am a bear. I tell you, don't poke me, because, you know, I'll take my big paw with my big bear claws and I'll swipe at you. So You know who you are if you're listening. Stupid poker. I'll talk about that later. The first thing I have for you tonight are the 10 things that I hate about the paranormal. Number 10, I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. I hate to say it, but I hate the term paranormal. And I hate it because it's pejorative in its very existence. It's basically saying it's not a science, it'll never be a science. Anybody who's involved with this just has some kooky beliefs, and it's popular culture or it's folklore, or if you're tribal, you have kooky beliefs. It's basically a pejorative term made by white Anglo-Saxon Protestant scientists, and I happen to be a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, so I can say that with vehemence all I want. But the fact is, Western civilization, European civilization, no tribal anything, no listening to anybody who's in a Native American tribe, in a South American tribe, nothing. Basically, you're all kooks. That's what paranormal means. I am so sick of the term. Why can't some things in the paranormal just become normal? They're a little odd normal, anomalous. We had a time back in the 90s when paranormal was anomalous. It was an anomalous experience, which was saying both, A, don't put me in the paranormal realm. It is an experience, and it doesn't happen every day. That's all I'm saying. It's a pejorative term. Why can't we drop it? We need something else, something more hopeful. Because at this point, if you're looking on Wikipedia, which has totally been taken over the skeptics, whom I will talk about later, here's what it says about paranormal. Paranormal events are phenomena described in popular culture, folklore, and other non-scientific bodies of knowledge whose existence within these contexts is described to lie between normal experience or scientific explanation. A paranormal phenomena is different from hypothetical concepts such as dark matter and dark energy. Unlike paranormal phenomena, these hypothetical concepts are based on empirical observation and experimental data gained through scientific method. Yeah, right, but at some point, even Einstein, when he came up with the theory of relativity, he did not have an observation. He had to wait for the observation for a goodly amount of years before he got it. There was only one time when he could get it. He sent someone down to the equator to get it, and he got it, which is great. Go Einstein. But the fact of the matter is, you still considered him a scientist. If you're paranormal, you're never going to get there. You can't get to science from paranormal because you'll be laughed out of the room before you do. The most notable paranormal beliefs, this is also from Wikipedia, include those that pertain to ghosts, extraterrestrial life, unidentified flying objects, psychic abilities or extrasensory perception, and cryptids. Yeah, we have them all here at Spaced Out Radio, and you know what? People do see them, and yeah, they're out there. The issue is not that it's paranormal and that it is a belief. The issue is that it doesn't fit. It requires an expansion of Western belief systems for it to fit within science and to be studied under the scientific method in our current academic and university system structure. And there's no money in it. That's an even bigger issue. Now, if you're wondering, why am I making this point? Because I worked in academia. I worked in science. I took care of very large grants and an engineering journal, and held lots of events at a major world technical school. And the fact of the matter is, in terms of the business of science, paranormal would go within pure science, which is beleaguered enough. It would go in pure physical science, which does not normally get what it needs to do the things that it does. Paranormal would be so far along that realm of monetary impossible that no one's going to fund it. Maybe Bigelow, but then he's going to take all the findings for himself. So what do you do about that? So the fact of the matter is, the word, again, it's like once you step into it, you can't get out of it. There is nothing you can do. You are associated with the paranormal. If you are a scientist who becomes associated with the paranormal, do you know what will happen to you? The skeptics, who are actually not scientists, will go after you, and your friends will laugh at you. But in any case, that's my rant. Why do we call it the paranormal? Why can't we call it something else? And here's the thing that really gets my goat. Extraterrestrial life and UFOs. And this is from Wikipedia, and it is true. The possibility of extraterrestrial life is not, by itself, a paranormal subject. Oh, really? You don't think? Oh, imagine that. Many scientists are actively engaged in the search for unicellular life within the solar system because, God forbid, something could be as advanced as we are, because God wouldn't let it happen. There is actually a scientist who has said that of course there can't be aliens because God wouldn't let that happen. Susan Clancy talked to a whole 10 possible experiencers. Probably 4 of the 10 she talked to were real abductees. Wrote in her book, well, I know there couldn't be alien abductions because God wouldn't let aliens exist. Calls herself a scientist, stands up for the skeptics who are in league with the atheists about putting all of this stuff down. Basically, they're a bunch of closed-minded, closed-book, closed-bottomed something or others, which I can't say on air. And the fact of the matter is, if you are saying that there can't be aliens because God wouldn't let that happen, you are as much a scientist as a 3-year-old child is. Because you have a belief system, and your bias is based on that belief system. And you wouldn't see an alien. It would have to be something else. It would have to be, somebody put mushrooms in your coffee or something for you to think that you saw anything, because God wouldn't let that happen. Harvard educated PhD, God wouldn't let that happen. So extraterrestrial life, yeah, we can study it, but then we get to say God wouldn't let that happen. Why? Because we were educated at Harvard and we're scientists. I'm sorry. That does not fly here. Projects such as SETI, this is also from Wikipedia, are conducting an astronomical search for radioactivity that would show evidence of intelligent life outside the solar system. So Seth Shostak was on this week because there was an article about Bigelow and what that he believes in extraterrestrial life, and that he is working on an extraterrestrial vehicle to go to other places. And Seth Shostak is the major SETI dude, and he said, well, the evidence for extraterrestrial life being here, because Bigelow said, well, aliens are here now, and there are all sorts of them here, which is basically what we have seen and know and people have experienced. And Shostak goes, well, the evidence is extremely poor. You can't have evidence based on the testimony of witnesses, no matter how good their credibility is. Yeah, buddy, go outside and prove to me that you saw a robin at 11 a.m. this morning when you didn't expect to and you didn't have your camera with you. And even if you did have your camera with you, we wouldn't take that as evidence that you saw a robin in your backyard. Now, we know robins exist because people have shot them before. Audubon shot them and he put them in a book and he drew pictures of them. And we see them all the time. But the fact of the matter is, you can't prove to me that you actually saw one. And that's the same problem any experiencer, any UFO sighting person has with seeing UFOs or extraterrestrial life. If we can't catch it, we can't prove it. And that doesn't mean that the evidence is poor. It means that we are now in the realm of wildlife biology with something that we cannot catch, and therefore we cannot prove. And, you being a physics dude saying, well, relativity has proof. Well, relativity didn't have proof when it first started, baby. And what you're saying is extremely pejorative. to a bunch of people who have had experiences that you can say, well, we know that radio waves would be proof because we're physicists and relativity has proof. I'm not even going to dignify that testosterone overload statement with another word. Moving on now. Early in the history of UFO cultures, believers divided themselves into two camps. Believers divided themselves. Do you know that there are lots of scientists who believe that it would be impossible for there not to be aliens? Even Carl Sagan believed that it was impossible for there not to be aliens. So basically, the numbers are that the possibilities of there being aliens, it's much more possible than it is than that there are not. But anyway, believers divided themselves into two camps. The first held a rather conservative view of the phenomena, interpreting them as unexplained occurrences that merited serious study. John Mack, I worked with John Mack. That's what he said. It's unexplained. What people are seeing, the stories they're telling are unexplained, but they merit serious study because different people who don't know each other are reporting the same things. That's empirical data right there. You have different people who don't know each other, and the phenomena that they were seeing back in the 80s and the 70s and even in the 60s, what people were reporting from that time frame, there hadn't been a major cultural outputting of this information. It wasn't there. So to say that the conservative view, which is, hey, it's unexplained, let's study it, that's true science right there. They began calling themselves ufologists in the 1950s and felt the logical analysis of sighting reports would validate the notion of extraterrestrial visitation. Yeah, except that we live in a country and in countries that don't want this information to get out. So, so much for science for you there. The second camp consisted of individuals who coupled ideas of extraterrestrial visitation with beliefs from existing quasi-religious movements. And this is true. There are lots of extraterrestrial-based quasi-religious movements. And when I hear them, I turn over and I puke in my boots because it's like, where else am I going to do it? I really don't want them to see me. I don't want to puke on them. Anyway, these individuals typically were enthusiasts of occultism, which is not bad, but, and many had backgrounds as theosophists and spiritualists. When you religify anything, when you add a religion to something, you are treading in dangerous ground. And to me, part of our problem with the paranormal is the true believers. And that's my next one. My next number 9 on it is the I want to believers. So what else can I say about that? Well, what I can say about that, here are some of my recent experiences with I want to believers. I am a spiritualist minister. I am a spirit medium, but I have worked in science, and I am one of the highest pedigreed abductees that you will see anywhere out there, and have had probably more regressions than anybody you've ever met. But the fact of the matter is, it was never about being a belief system for me. And to have it be a foregone conclusion by the skeptics, this is an idea put forward by skeptics, not by abductees, not by experiencers themselves, that we are religified believers. No, that's not the case. When you have something that is so shattering to your idea of what reality is, as to have an alien in the room with you who has basically disempowered you and is having a telepathic conversation with you, and then you remember that you've had this happen again and again and again, when that happens to you, and it is clear as day, you are conscious as you are right now listening to this show, your worldview changes. It's not about you wanting to be religious. It's not about you wanting to have an alternate definition of God. For my first 2 years of being an abductee, I would go home every night and sing spirituals in my bathtub because it made me feel better to sing about Jesus. Because I felt better. Because I felt safer. because I felt like there was a core spirituality that I already had, and this was definitely not going to replace it. And what people don't understand when they're saying, well, you have a belief system in aliens, if you are an abductee, you don't want to have a belief system in aliens. And whatever belief system you have, is if it gives you comfort, if it has given you comfort in your life, if it has helped you along the way, you cling to that with all of your might, because everything else is falling apart. Everything else is crashing to bits. So it is another slap in the face by the uneducated to be called a believer, and also to be called uneducated because you have had this experience. And that annoys me to absolutely no end. That there are people out there who say, well, it's a bunch of uneducated people who have a funky belief system. I'm sorry. I have basically 2 BA degrees and a minor, 2 in science and a minor in music. I'm sorry. I spent 7 years in school. I worked in science. And I have edited journals, and I have worked in science where these skeptics in this digging for crap on people and baiting people come up and say, well, we're all scientific. You know what? If your grandmother was here, she would wash your mouths out with soap. Don't talk about people as if they're not educated when they are. There are lots of people who have very fine educations, who are abductees, who are experiencers, who are intelligent. And the problem is most of them are more intelligent than you are. And they're more intelligent because they can engage in conceptual thinking, and they can think outside of the box because they've had to think outside of the box. So this whole thing, this whole attack on extraterrestrial life and the UFOs based on the fact that you're a believer makes me crazy. And the believers make me crazy because they just play right into it. And it's people who, yes, they need something to believe in. Yes, religion didn't work for them. Yes, okay, they didn't find Jesus when they were 14, or they didn't find Vishnu or Shiva, or meet a Tibetan Lama, or somebody that was there for them in their spiritual life to help them along. And so they're looking for a Pleiadian. Well, yeah, your spiritual help may be Pleiadian, and it may be white Manuses, it may be Zayton, and that's okay too. But the fact of the matter is, once you religify that, once you make that into, my dude has the answers. Well, the answers to what is the first question. The answers to, is it number 42? Is it, is it the great big giant computer on the planet so far away? What are the answers to? When you make it a religion and you all of a sudden you have to follow dietary rules and you have to be strict and yada, yada, ida, eine, it's not truly about the experience anymore. It's about your religion. It's about your ideas of it. I have ideas of it. I have things aliens have taught me. But the fact of the matter is, I keep it also to what is my experience of this as a human being in a body on this planet, and not necessarily, well, the answer to everything is that, goodness and light. Well, I believe that. And compassion, I believe that. And we're all ascending in consciousness. Geez, I hope so. I really hope so. But the fact of the matter is, you can get that from Buddha. You can get that from Jesus. You can get that from Islam. And unfortunately, we have radicals not doing that right now. You can get that from a lot of places on this planet. You don't need to make aliens your saviors. And our friendly space brothers, I hate to tell you, that's a vampire being telling you that stuff. And if you all want to leave now, all of you who believe in the friendly space brothers and the world teacher, I'm sorry. It's a big fat vampire who's feeding off of you. Anyway, moving on. So true believers, that's number 9. I don't like them. Be skeptical. Try to find out what you're looking at and why. And I'm going to catch myself on my own one because I just made a judgment. So number 8 is gypsy readers. And Everett brought this up, and Rich Giordano brought this up on Friday. It was about, how do you know if a psychic is good? And a lot of psychics are doing stuff that's hinky. Well, guess what? Yeah, that's true. And, what annoys me is being cleanup crew for what I call gypsy readers. Gypsy readers are psychics who tell you that, you have a curse on you and it's going to cost you $300 to buy a magical implement to remove it, or you need to come back so many times and it's going to be $5,000. And, can you go to your bank account right now? No matter what, your best friend is going to be out to get you. Somebody is planning to do you harm. And you get psyched out and sucked into a trauma story, which does nothing but line the psychic's pockets. If you are in the presence of a true spirit medium, somebody who is working with spirit guides, you won't get that kind of story. You might get an opinion about what somebody is doing. You might get an opinion about how you should, react to that or not react to that, as it were, because a lot of times non-reaction is the best reaction that you could possibly do. Basically it's just making any small little molehill of problem you have into a mountain. So gypsy readers, I dislike them, and they are frauds. They might have a little bit of a psychic ability that they can wow you with. When they get, in your energy field, they can tell you something about yourself. But if it's all gloom and doom, and if you need to be coming back and you need to be spending thousands of dollars, guess what? Don't even go there. And the other thing is that everybody has psychic abilities. All of you skeptics, all of you scientists, everybody who's out there who is looking at this as if it's all BS, if you would come to a class, any class, and take the class with an open mind, you would learn how you have psychic abilities and how you can use them. Remote viewing and scientific remote viewing is a wonderful example of that. And this is not all about gypsy readers and frauds. This is about human abilities. And to be able to find out that you have them and to be able to scientifically study them, remote viewing has been scientifically studied. So the fact of the matter is, all of you people who say you're a scientist who said there's no basis in reality for it are being frauds and liars yourself. So that's what we got going on there. Dislike gypsy readers, but I also dislike the fact that people aren't aware, and they could be made aware, that yes, anybody can be psychic and anybody can learn how to do it. And, I'm shooting myself in the foot because, it's like, well, you're psychic. You're saying you're not special. It's like, well, I'm a really good psychic, but no, I'm not special. I see students all the time who don't end up pursuing it because it's not their vocation, it's not their calling, who end up going back into medicine and psychology, in social work, and running insurance companies, cowboys. I see people all of the time who are wonderful intuitives, who just blow me away, but their calling is something else. And so the fact that we don't let it out, that we so make it such a pejorative term to be a psychic, when there are so many people who have the ability, or so many people who could have the ability and use it for good, use it for protection, use it if they're firefighters, they could be using their intuition to know when to go into an area and when not to go into an area. They could be saving lives with it by getting a little bit of help on how do I help this person? What do I need to do right now? And the fact that we make this something to be so ashamed of is something, and gypsy readers just play into that by being frauds. That's something I hate about the paranormal world. I absolutely hate it. That was number 8. Number 7, spiritual judgment. If you listen to this, I probably spiritually judged everybody all over the place. But what I mean by spiritual judgment is that people who believe there's a hierarchy and that you can't do certain things if you're not somewhere along that hierarchy. You know, a lot of different people with a lot of different experiences come here to live as human beings on Earth. And some of those people, in my experience doing readings, are aliens with incredible abilities. Their point of origin is in fantastic places where they are extremely old souls and they have fantastic abilities. That does not mean that they are higher or lower on any spiritual hierarchy. The spirituality, the spiritual essence of everyone is equality. And when you work from a place of equality that everyone is equal, everyone is a spiritual being, is equal, they may just have had different experiences or their point of origin may be different, and so and their life lesson may be different, but you are no more spiritual, which is quote unquote better than anyone else, then it actually makes a very comfortable world to live in. If you have to be more spiritual, then you're engaging in a spiritual judgment, but also a form of arrogance, which will keep you from any further enlightenment because you already think you know. You're just like the scientists who already think they know, even though they're not even looking anymore for what the questions are. So spiritual judgment just really gets me about this. There are people that you meet, you go out to conferences and they're talking about, oh, they're so high on the hierarchy, and it's like, or I am set by a guy who was Akhenaten. He was like, I was Akhenaten, and it's like, oh really? That's awesome. You know, how's it going for you now? I live in Sedona, and people think I'm a fraud. Well, gee, you know, if I were going around saying I was Akhenaten, people might think I was a fraud too. Well, just say it. You know, do you need to say it to everybody you meet? Hi, I was Akhenaten. So that's the next thing that gets me. Paranormal frauds. They're along with gypsy readers. Those are the people who make tons and tons of money telling you what the aliens are doing here and what their agenda is, and yet don't even know that the Mesa in Dulce is Archuleta Mesa. Yeah, I forgot the guy's name. Sean somebody or other. He's been a guest on SOR, but never mind that. News this week did get indicted or go to jail or something for being a fraud. You know what you can tell? You can always spot them. They drop names. They know everybody. Now, I drop names, but those are people I've actually worked with and know very well and would not hurt me for dropping their names, would say, yeah, of course, I know her. But they know everybody. They've been everywhere. They've done amazing things. And when it comes right down to it, it's like if you know anything about one of the things that they're talking about, you realize that they don't know anything about what they're talking about. And they make lots of money and they self-promote and they do Hollywood shows. Cannot stand. All right. Right up there with them are people who don't like tree spirits. Now, why? It's kind of non sequitur. Why would I be putting in people who don't like tree spirits in here? Well, the thing is, it's people who have fear, that have a judgment about different forms of paranormal beings. And these are people, they have some intuitive ability, but it's always geared toward, oh my God, what's a threat now? It's a kind of hypervigilance. And it's always, something is threatening me, something is threatening me, something is threatening me. Well, guess what? You aren't the center of the universe. There are lots of things in the universe, and if you want to look at everything as a threat, by all means, make yourself nuts. But the fact of the matter is, a tree spirit is not a threat to you. The tree spirit is wondering, are you going to cut it down? What are you doing in their home? And, do you promise to be nice and be in connection? There are people in the world who are terrified when they are approached by extremely gentle spirits, extremely gentle consciousnesses, that they are being attacked by something, that everything out there is bad. Guess what? Get over it. Not everything out there is bad. Not everything is trying to get you. you'll notice the things that are trying to get you, because all of a sudden you'll go on a rant like I am tonight. So I probably have some ungodly attachment somewhere. But no, at some point, you'll notice that you are making things that are tiny and insignificant into big, massive deals, that it's almost the end of the world, and you're going into fight mode or you're going into flight mode. Then you got to worry about it. But when you're approached by a consciousness, whether it's a tree spirit or an alien or something else, it's not necessarily demonic. It's not necessarily interested in taking over your body. It's not necessarily meaning you any harm whatsoever. So I would just ask those people who tend to treat tree spirits like they're the most scary things in the world, or any other kind of consciousnesses that come up to them, to check your fear at the door and ask the question mark. Just say, question mark, how can I help you? And then that will take care of that. Oh my goodness, I didn't turn off my phone. To anyone who can hear that, I'm sorry. My next pet peeve is gnomes. Yeah, I found the best source of information on gnomes today. And this is just for Dave, because, you know, gnomes are evil. We know they're evil. This is from the Encyclopedia, and this is what gnomes are, according to the Encyclopedia. Lawn gnomes are indigenous people from Vermont who live in suburban areas. Most often found in lawns and gardens, these hardy people subsist on a diet of flowers, mailmen, berries, and earthworms. Characteristics and habitat. A remarkable feature of lawn gnomes is their ability to remain still for hours on end. While this originally evolved as a way to outsmart predators, it is now used as a means to spread fear throughout suburban areas. As lawn gnomes are strikingly beautiful as well as utilitarian, their value to humans living in urban environments is quite high. Rather than run from poaching humans, lawn gnomes have learned to stand perfectly still, to the extent that they are often confused with statuary. Once picked up by a human and spirited off, a lawn gnome begins to carve out a home in his or her new domain. This is quite beneficial, as lawn gnomes could never cover such distances without assistance. Lawn gnomes are rarely seen together, as they are nocturnal creatures. They hunt, socialize, and mate under cover of darkness, often inside their subterranean dwellings. Lawn gnomes prefer darkness, and if caught outside as dawn strikes, they instinctively freeze in whatever position or location they were in. This stationary pose lasts until dark. During this time, lawn gnomes go into a sort of trance where they rest and explore their surroundings with their telepathic powers. Lawn gnomes are also known to wear blouses. Combat. Though relatively harmless, lawn gnomes will attack cats and mailmen on sight with a plastic flamingo if one is available. Otherwise, they use whatever physical weapon is handy. If you are not a cat or a mailman, watch out for the lawn gnome's madness-inducing creep ray, which has been known to send shivers up spines of 350-pound Harley dudes and Dave Scott. So basically, gnomes are really freaking annoying. They are one of the most annoying paranormal phenomena. And even the way people write about them and talk about them, it's just annoying. Oh, it's so annoying. So, next thing that's really annoying about the paranormal that I hate reptilians and draconian power mongers. All right, you're going to get into this. Is going to sound like a belief system thing. But for years, one of the reasons why my opinion about this, from my experience, is that we do get interfered with. Experiencers who go out to talk, experiencers who do research, abductees who do research, especially if they do it on the world stage or the academic stage, do suffer from energetic siphoning. One of the things that happened with me was that basically I had a great big old energy sieve. Every time I would try to talk about abduction or experiences, all of a sudden I would get really, really low energy and become completely unable to function for several days afterward. I would get a headache. I might get a migraine. I might have one of those lightning strikes you in the top of the head migraines. This happened to me at Harvard. I went to speak to a working group, a group of psychiatrists at Harvard Medical School, and to tell them, I basically wanted to say, look, we're abductees. We don't have this other psychology that you might think has to do with schizophrenia, schizotypy, psychotic break. I go to work, I go to school. I was working full-time and going to school full-time while I was an abductee. You try that. And basically, we're highly functioning. I was a National Merit Scholar, highly functioning kid. The fact of the matter is, I'm sitting in here in this room, and because I'm also an intuitive and an empath, I can feel what every person in the room is thinking about what I'm saying and what box they're trying to put me in. And I'm just saying, look, don't put me in a box. But at the same time, my energy is being sucked out of me by the power mongers in the astral plane. Now, if you're an experiencer and you've ever had this experience, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, you're trying to tell the world what's going on, and all of a sudden, all of your energy is sucked out of you. You may get a migraine. You may be down for days. Now, what I did is I went back to a place, and I did a kind of regression where I went back to a place, and I found in my system that I had an energetic implant from the power mongers that was designed to siphon off energy. And that's the only way I function now. That's the only way I can write a book and get on the radio. Because even when I was trying to write my book, it was like, shut her down, shut her down, shut her down. And, when I got this energetic implant, I basically sent it I removed it from myself and I gave it back to the central sun at the beginning of the universe, and basically was in a place of power and completely destroyed it. If you're an abductee, you have to find your spiritual power however it looks to you, whether that's with Jesus, whether that's with Mary, whether that's with Buddha, whether that's with Shiva, whether that's with whoever. If you're an experiencer, go to the place where your spiritual power is and find a way to remove anything that is draining you of that power from your system. And power mongers will do that. And they've done it to other researchers, other people, and in anybody who's in this business. It basically comes down to who can we sabotage today, who's trying to do something good for the side that wants this information out. That's my belief system. That's my opinion based on my experience. If you have another one, that's okay too. But that's what I've experienced. Okay, number 2. I think I already covered it, but it is being a foregone conclusion as an abductee. Again, it's not what you think it is. It's an actual experience. People of all types have this experience. People of all types have alien contact now. Don't make it a foregone conclusion, because you're missing so much about the world if you do. You go, oh, one of those. Well, you don't even know what one of those is. I have the same issue because, my guidance was to put Spirit Medium on my sign in front of my shop. People walk by, and I would say 2/3 of the people walk by and they make a comment about a foregone conclusion about what I am. They don't know what I am. They don't know what my background is. They don't know anything at all about me. But because if I put up there alien abductee, it would be a different foregone conclusion, which is really interesting. It's like, oh, then they go, oh, I'm wondering if I should do it just to see if more people come in the shop. But the fact of the matter is, having anything to do with the paranormal, because paranormal by itself is a pejorative term, makes one a foregone conclusion. So that annoys me. That's number 2. I dislike that more than anything in the world, that just because you've seen what you've seen, you've experienced what you've experienced, you've looked into it, you're curious, you want to find out about it, you want to do some research into it, you want to find other people who have found out about it, just because you pursue something that gives you something to get out of bed for in the morning, because if you didn't pursue it, maybe you'd be too afraid to get out of bed in the morning, like a lot of abductees are. They have agoraphobia, or, other types of experiencers. The fact of the matter is, just because that's happened to you, it doesn't mean you're a foregone conclusion. You are the person that you are. Love yourself, because, and don't accept the foregone conclusion. Don't accept the idea that you have to accept anything pejorative about who and what you are and who and what you present in this world. That's the worst thing, is when that foregone conclusion becomes internalized. When that happens, oh my gosh, just don't do it. Don't internalize it. Okay. Lastly, but not leastly, Michael McNeil, I don't know what you mean. Why can't you figure me out? Am I that confusing? Okay, lastly, skeptics. That's my last thing. That's the last thing I hate about the paranormal. It's also the first thing. It's the alpha and the omega of everything I hate about the paranormal. And the issue is skeptics will set you up. Skeptics are fraudsters. The ones that are out there working, they're not real scientists. They're not doing real science. This evening, today, I got an email from somebody that I'm quite sure works for Skeptic Magazine. I'm not sure if I should read the email, but basically it was a request for help that was so much BS and it was such a sell. It was basically trying to play into my supposed ego by saying that the person had issues with negative entities and jinn, and reporting all the things that they had done, which were BS, and then reporting what the symptoms were, which were BS. And the main thing was there was so much BS in the cell of the letter that was like, this is a person who thinks that I believe I have a certain belief system. This is a person who doesn't understand that I have knowledge and experience. This is a person who is trying to set me up. I just read it and I went, this is a person who has an angle, because A, that didn't happen, B, that didn't happen, C, that didn't happen, and D, the fact that he's saying, no, this is really true, I'm not faking, is like an obvious dead giveaway. Because most people just say, oh, you're a psychic, do you, and they write me one question things. They say, you're a psychic, do you know anything about jinn? And I'll say, a little bit, but I actually know this other person over here knows a lot about jinn. You might want to go talk to them. Instead of this whole long storyline that is perfectly edited and everything else, and it's like, nope, I'm not buying it. So this happened to be Stephen Ridley. You know who Stephen Ridley is? You know who has another name by Stephen Ridley? The development director of Skeptic Magazine. Imagine that. Skeptic Magazine, they need to write about things that they're skeptical about. And how do they get what they write about? Well, I'll tell you how they get it. They bait psychics. They bait UFO researchers. They set up UFO researchers. They set up Psychop, set up John Mack with Donna Bassett, who ended up basically turning on him and saying that she lied about everything. She probably lied from the beginning. They set up everybody. They set up anybody they can find who will take the bait. Anybody who is good-hearted enough, gentle enough, sweet enough, open enough to try to be helpful to somebody who's in trouble with the paranormal. They set them up. So I want to make it clear to anybody who's out there with Spaced Out Radio, if you get a letter that seems a little off from somebody asking for help with negative entities or jinn or something else in the paranormal, well, I'll read it. Okay, Vivian Treadwell says, I'd love to hear you read it. And since I didn't allow this person to hire me, I don't think it is definitely a breach of anonymity. Hi, Elizabeth. You don't really know me, but I really need advice. I'm not going to go into my entire story because, as I have previously found out, it's not worth my time to explain everything because, as I was warned, people will just think I'm crazy. Well, I'm not. I've had a rather bad negative entity problem as well as jinn. They coexist, that I believe. However, I'm at a point now where I don't know what to do about it. I've had psychics here come and go, and they tell me, oh, don't worry, my sage is blessed by a shaman. Well, whatever. Their methods don't work. Sage doesn't work. Earth gems are completely useless, as well as crosses, meditation, etc. Reiki just makes the situation worse since my aura gets much healthier. I'll stop there because I don't want to type and waste your time as well as mine. I have a huge problem that I don't think anyone has encountered before. I don't say that lightly because I know people have written about this before, but I'm constantly assaulted. I can see them. I know what these things look like. I can see the jinn from time to time. They shake my bed. They get very close to me. Tell me something positive. What can I do? And no, this is not a joke or anything fake. What I am experiencing is very real. You know what? When people are experiencing something really real, they don't write about it in this way. They ask you one-sentence questions. Do you know anything about this? That's what they do. That's what real people do. That's what people who are not faking do. So that's the letter. That's the thing that got me on a rant tonight. Because I have, having done the work with John Mack, having to go to Harvard, being the last abductee who had to speak in an open forum at the Mocked building because Donna Bassett decided to attack John Mack and say that he was doing harm to abductees, and then turned around and said, well, I completely faked my story. I wasn't really an abductee, and he was taken in, so he's not a real scientist. And then set it up so that she showed up at a PsyCop conference that he was invited to speak at, and acted like it hadn't been a setup from the beginning. Skeptics set you up. So that's what they do. That's why I hate the paranormal world, because even if you want to try to work in the spiritual world, the paranormal world, you actually do know something about it, you have experience with it, they're going to be out there and they're going to set you up. So that was the first time I was involved with a setup. The second time was I got asked by the Alibi newspaper in Albuquerque to do a remote viewing of the year ahead across the world. And I said, well, what's the target? The Earth. For what? For the year 2008. You know what? It was a really freaking good remote viewing. There was nothing that I wrote about that did not happen. And Ben Radford, on December 31st, without looking back over the events of the world, said that I said that there would be locusts swarming in the United States. But the target was the world. And I said there would be major locust swarms in the world. And there were tremendous locust swarms in Australia, in China, in Tajikistan. We didn't know about the Sudan. I couldn't get that information because nobody was doing any reporting because of what was happening in Darfur. So nobody knew what was happening in Africa, whether or not they had had a break in. Basically, locust swarms are part and parcel of global warming, whether you believe in that or not. Climate change is happening. So when you have periods of dry, severe dry, that are followed by periods of severe wet, you get locust swarms. And that happened in 2008. And that is a scientific freaking fact. And that a-hole went to Live Science and said that it didn't happen. He said that the target was the U.S. because the point that I made before was that there were going to be floods in Iowa in 2008. And there were going to be a lot of pigs in flood. And people were sending me pictures of the pigs in the flood in Iowa that whole summer. They were like, look, it's a pig in the flood. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I saw that. But the fact of the matter is, he said, well, you were wrong because you were saying it was going to happen in the U.S. Well, guess what? Locusts don't generally swarm in the U.S. They haven't done it since 1903. My father's a biologist. I've known about bugs all my life. And the target was the freaking world. So it was another point in the whole list of things that were going to happen in the world that he said didn't fit because it didn't happen in the U.S. Well, it wasn't going to happen in the U.S. because things like that don't happen in the U.S. That's what skeptics do. They're full of BS. So that's what I did. That's my rant. I'm done ranting for tonight. I just want you all to know I love you dearly. If you're an intuitive, if you're a psychic, if you're related to the show, watch out. They're out there baiting people this week, maybe next week. Maybe they're going to do something. But this is Elizabeth. Love you all. I'm taking my grumpy self out of here and leaving you and letting James take over. Night, night, all.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com. It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners, for only $5 a month you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, as well as on Facebook. On YouTube, our channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, here's James Tyson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Spaced Out Weekend. Thank you, Dave. It is I, James Tyson, and I am broadcasting to you, as always, from my little log cabin on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network, here in the paranormal portals of the lower left Canadian coast, Cascadia, the Pacific Northwest, our little rainforest, a little jewel hidden way up here. Don't come here. There are too many people moving here. There's not enough room anymore. Go back to where you've come from. Tonight's a little bit of a serious note. We have an opportunity to address something that I had some personal dealings with back in, I think I typoed it on my original advert for the show here. It was 1999. I was a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in a part of the lower mainland British Columbia here. Like I say, down in the southwest coast of British Columbia. And as a plainclothes policeman, I was one of those shaggy guys with long hair and a beard. And we came under the umbrella of major crime, as did, believe it or not, the youth detail, which actually were investigating sexual abuse on children and things like that. So it did fit. Homicide, which we had a number of homicide investigators, and we had people coming and saying, like, my son Billy was shot, and what are you doing about it? So, they were quite busy. The community was about maybe just under 20,000 or 200,000 people. In 1999, we had a gentleman down in the cell area, and he happened to tell one of the policemen that a girlfriend of his, had gone with a gentleman, and I'm not going to name this guy. He's always going to call him a killer, because I don't need that energy in my life. But the killer, to pick up women in the downtown east side of Vancouver, which is a very sad area, where people who had mental health issues or drug addiction issues were preyed upon by any form of leeching human, whether they were abusing the sex trade workers, who we called STWs, if they were abusing the sex trade workers, if they were supplying them with drugs until basically they died. It was just a horrid, horrid place. They lived in squalor, in tenements, and if the landlords weren't ripping them off, anybody on the street would. Well, this fella in our jail cell said he had seen women. His girlfriend had said she'd seen women's clothing and a number of things in the area where the killer was. It was described as a pig farm, but really it was a dirt farm. They would grind dirt up and sell it. And a B train is a dump truck with a pup or another little trailer behind it. We saw about 30 of those leave that property a day, filled with dirt, heading off to be used on a to cover up a garbage dump on a landfill. But one of the things this fella in the jail cells had said that there was a single mother who had seen a woman's body hanging when she was out for a smoke. She had actually would go downtown, which was about, a 45-minute drive to downtown Vancouver, the downtown east side, to pick up a sex trade worker with the killer, because it was easier to get them into the car on that long of a trip if there was another woman in the car. She had one time, if not was at that time, an active sex trade worker herself. And the killer had picked up this girl and drove her back to the farm, and the informant, or this girl, had gone for a smoke outside and walked around a corner and states that she saw the killer with a woman hanging up, and my words is he was eviscerating her. A layman's terms would be just cutting her up. One of the things that completely rang true with me when we heard, all of us, when we heard the information, was part of the information, and there's a lot of detail given, but one of the things that this woman was fascinated with, she said that she couldn't believe how bright yellow human fat was. And unless you've actually seen an autopsy, an accident, worked in a hospital, or been around human fat, you wouldn't know. It's like almost like if you had a yellow highlighter, the color of the plastic on the yellow highlighter. That's about as close as I can think where you guys could all kind of tune in and figure that out. A lot of people, laymen you ask, they just imagine what fat looks like on a steak in the store. Nope, not human fat. It does not look like that. So that fact, or that statement, along with a number of other things, really rang alarm bells with us. And also we knew that in 1997, the killer had picked up a sex trade worker, and when he was about to handcuff her, she had also used heroin at the time. So there was an end up, he tried to kill her. Somehow she got the knife away from him, slashed his throat. He turned around, grabbed his neck, and had his back to her. And she stabbed him a couple more times, ran out, almost bled to death on the road, but was taken away. Picked up by a family, or a couple, and driven to the hospital. Because she was high on heroin, the opiate, she didn't go into shock, and she survived. Unfortunately, the Crown, which is like the DA here in Canada, and in British Columbia, and one other province on the East Coast, they're the only two provinces where the police aren't allowed to charge somebody with an offense. You can submit why you think the person should be charged, and the Crown prosecutor looks at it and weighs it to see if there was there's a possibility, or if they think it's actually going to lead to a conviction. So it doesn't even go to the judge for that. It's just some guy sitting at a desk, and he looked at it and said, well, his lawyer is saying he's got defensive wounds. He's got slashed in the throat, and he got stabbed in the back. And he was saying that she was trying to rob him. And her statement, given while under the influence of heroin, and then given when she sobered up from heroin, were two different things. His statement never changed. So we all had this info. The poor lady wasn't considered a competent witness, and he said that she was a hitchhiker that attacked him. So it was just stupid. Anyway, so we knew he had a history of, we had a gut feeling and a belief beyond what the Crown prosecutor thought, that he had this in his history. So with this, I phoned the Vancouver City Police Missing Women's Task Force and said, hey, you guys really should come out and talk to this guy, because we don't have any of the files that you have on missing people. So we don't know what questions to ask. And the lady I talked to, which is kind of odd because I ended up working with her a few years later, said, "Oh, we're not interested in anybody out there. We've got other things going on." And I was dumbfounded. And I said, "Are you sure you don't want to come and talk to the guy? It's a 25-minute drive. Come on out. You guys know what questions to ask. We're blind on this." "Well, if you're going to work on the killer, tell us if he goes to Vancouver and maybe we'll look at it." Well, we got a little ticked off and we ended up using a plainclothes guy who worked in internals, my unit, like a street crew unit, the youth detail, and we followed him around. And I remember standing behind him while he was at an auction, and it was like standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon. I just felt like I would fall into him. Like there was a big hole between he and I. Eventually we got told not to work on him anymore because there were no bodies that we knew of. And the Vancouver City Police, who had all the files, didn't seem to be interested. And remember, we still had those families coming to our front counter saying, "Hey, what are you doing about my son who's, we have the body and it's in the ground." So, sorry, seems to be there's a wolf outside the log cabin here. Let me just go check that out for you in case he comes running in. No, he's not coming in. He's chasing coyotes or barking at coyotes. I apologize for that. So we had a break off. It was really, really hard. Very hard. In fact, I actually went and drew a picture of this killer using an old mugshot of his and took it down to the areas the sex trade workers would hang out in. And I passed it out saying, if this guy, you see this guy, don't get in the truck with him. And it wasn't till somebody in, was it 2002, I think, one of the people there saw some guns in his property, reported to the police, and they did a search warrant. And one of the guys on our youth detail, who I think he had a master's thesis done on serial killers, who had kept that file under his desk and kind of worked on it a bit. He had eventually went to the Missing Women's Task Force. So the boys at my detachment knew him and they called him up and he said, "Well, I'm not coming on the property because that would taint it. But if you happen to find anything of interest, call me." And I don't think they were there for 10 minutes when they didn't find a something that was related to somebody on his list of missing women. And at that point, the boys backed away from the search warrant with the gun, and a new search warrant was applied for. And that led to an absolutely amazing search. It was the largest crime scene in Canadian history. Investigators took a little over 200,000 DNA samples, seized 600,000 exhibits. Archaeologists and forensic experts needed heavy equipment to sift through about 380,000 cubic yards of soil, and they were searching for human remains. Just the cost at that time, in 2002 dollars, was $70 million. And remember I was saying that when we were doing surveillance on that place, every day 30 B trains left. These are dump trucks pulling a trailer, and that soil was going somewhere else. There was an actual time when they thought, we're going to go have to do an archaeological dig bigger than we're doing here on a landfill. And they said, you know what, we've got enough DNA to actually push it through with the murders. The killer was actually stuck in jail with a buddy of mine in a holding tank. He didn't know my buddy was an undercover policeman. And he admitted to killing 49 sex trade workers. And he wanted to stop at 50. But I think he would have just gone up in 25 increments after that. It's a horrible, horrible story. And I have my own deep belief on why it happened. One of the worst parts of that is of the 26 named people he was charged with. Eventually, I think there was 30, but 4 of them were Jane Does. 16 of them were actually reported missing after I was stopped. Our team was stopped from working on them because the Vancouver City Police didn't want to. So, hard to take. We had a peek, Skeeter Wellhouse and I, last week. I just brought the property up. She doesn't know where it is. She's not on the line right now, and she was under strict orders not to bounce around social media in relation to this. She is actually also blocked from my my websites, the Facebook pages. So I should remember not to block her or take that off. But yeah, she's been pretty good. She said she was good keeping away from it. I did catch her liking one of the posts in Forest Moon Paranormal, so we're going to have a talk to her about that. But I'm going to give her a shout right now and bring Skeeter Wellhouse on. Like I say, we did take a look at it earlier in the week. She just knew it was I showed her a picture of land, and that was it. So I'm going to give her a shout here on Skype and get her hooked up and bring Skeeter Wellhouse in. And you'll know Skeeter is, since she died a couple of weeks ago, she's switched on, actually pretty darn good here. So it's going to be amazing. We did have a visit briefly to the land, and I'm going to bring her on, and she's going to kind of show you the types of things that we encountered, which was absolutely fantastic. Skeeter, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Good. I only said one thing bad about you, and that was
good.
You liked my post about this that I put up on Forest Moon.
That was probably my daughter, actually, because she does get on my Facebook page.
Oh, are you driving somewhere?
No, there's just a motorcycle going through the parking lot.
Which is okay. Motorcycles are good. At least you didn't have the 10-15 coyotes come through like we do.
Ah.
Oh, what's that noise?
That was the YouTube channel I was watching since I was banned from Facebook.
Okay, turn that off.
I did.
So what I did, young Skeeter, I gave the listener an update, and I've updated them on my involvement in this location and gave them a bit of the history. And it was just kind of articulating how you and I poked in on it. Now, from the photographs that I sent you, what did you could you get out of those photographs? You couldn't get an address, could you? You just saw a field?
What photos?
Oh, that's right. We didn't use photos. I looked at the photos. You tuned into me. That's what it was. Clever girl. That's kind of cool, actually. That is kind of cool. The types of photos that I sent or that I was looking at were literally just ones from I think where did I get that one photo from? It was Google Earth. So it was just a green field. And most of them were green fields or are green fields now, primarily because of the everything has been pulled out after the archaeological dig, and it's just a cattle field. But what's really spooky, listener, is that when the execution of the warrant happened, this gentleman's trailer and barn were about 50, not even 50, maybe 30 or 40 yards from brand new houses. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you tonight about, Skeeter, is how active possibly some of those houses might be. Because that is a horrid area, an absolutely horrible area to have had a house built on. I'm sending you a photo right now, Skeeter, and I'm going to post this photo in our SOR Space Travelers. And I'm also, unfortunately, I don't have access to the Spaced Out Radio website, or I post it on the front there. But I'm going to go to let's see. I'm going to post it on Facebook.
Oh my God.
I'm putting one in on Skeeter. That picture there, it's got a few police cars around it, but that's just part of an aerial photograph of the area. It doesn't even include where the trailer where the guy lived. So I'm going to grab a couple of pictures here, post them on my Facebook page, Spaced Out Weekend, James Tyson. If you go there, guys, in a couple of seconds, you'll be able to see the photos, and I will send them, the same ones, over to the SOR Space Travelers, and I will send it over to Skeeter via Skype. Skeeter, tell us exactly, while I do this, update our listener on how you astro travel to a location and what you see.
Give me just a moment, because...
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, I'll give you some time.
That's wow.
Yeah. And people, the picture I showed, you'll see it. It's really just an aerial photograph of, it looks like a garbage dump. So, but what Skeeter sees is something different, and we'll get into that. So, if you wouldn't mind, Skeeter, and kind of give.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time breathing too. So, yeah, it is overwhelming.
The listener needs to understand this really is my first time to really see this, and there's an urge to throw up. It felt like someone shoved something down my throat. Felt like someone sliced my throat, like ran something across the lower part. I felt like pressure on my chest. I feel like I'm having a hard time breathing. I want to cry. It's a panic cry. It's like I'm scared. I'm terrified all of a sudden. It's just, holy, bleep.
Yeah.
I'll bleep myself tonight. Oh my God.
Okay, take your time. And if for some reason you feel this is a little too overwhelming, I can certainly understand.
Oh my God, there was like five or six women involved in this. Oh my God. Okay, I'm trying to pull myself back into me, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Wow. Oh God, tonight's going to be a heavy bleep night. Bleep. Holy cow. Oh.
Okay, I'm just posting in it's Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson, and I'm just going to update my post in there. Yeah, it's...
Grandmother says they were... Grandmother's stepping forward. She's saying it's okay.
Okay. And we'll get to tell you guys who Grandmother is too. It's interesting. This is quite a interesting event tonight.
Okay. I'm gonna hide the picture for just a minute.
Okay.
So I can get back into myself. Wow. Oh, how in the world were you guys able to go to that scene?
I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. It's
okay.
It's interesting. It's and you can see why it's it means it's kind of important to me that we're there now, because since 1999, it's been really an important part of me and there was a huge inquiry into this, and why wasn't the killer caught earlier and such, and you just wanted to stand on the rooftop and scream why. And I have my own reasons to believe why, and it's not what the mainstream may think. I think, well, personally, it's my own opinion, but I think this was a wake-up call to the missing and murdered Aboriginal women across Canada, and actually spawned a inquiry that's gone national. And I think what results from that will save many, many, many more lives. But just 1, 2, 3, or 4 young women disappearing or being murdered over years and years wasn't really getting anyone's attention until this happened. And then this got lots of attention and spawned an inquiry, which my heart believes will save the lives of women and children in the Aboriginal community across Canada. And that's what I hope comes from this. Okay, there we go. So, how do you do an astral travel?
Astrally, I either need an address or an image, or it's someplace that I kind of know. Like, I know about the Tower of London, so I can focus on what I know of the Tower of London and send. It's kind of like sending. What's the best way to put it? It's kind of like splitting my mind in half and setting myself there. When I was first learning, we called it shadow walking. And I learned by, I'd pick certain landmarks and I'd send myself to point A, then point B, and then all the way to the actual location. And it's kind of weird because this part of me will slow down, so you'll hear me start to stutter, or words will get caught or dragged. It's also very similar to when I start channeling or go into a trance-like state so I can connect deeper. But in my mind, things shift. It's kind of like I'm here, but I'm not here. And all of a sudden my senses awaken, not where I'm at, but where my mind has sent my spiritual form, my ghostly form. Some people who do astral travel have had friends or individuals say, hey, I saw you such and such place. Like if I were to send myself to my friend Aaron's house, Aaron would get back to me later and go, what were you doing spying on me today? And I'd pick on him and just tell him about, I was just making sure you're being good. But people can sometimes actually see your form there. Much the way we can sometimes see like an apparition or a partial full-bodied apparition. Some of us can actually feel or sense it on an electric energy level. But it's literally separating yourself from your body intentionally. Some people ask if there's a fear of not being able to get back into your body. That is a legitimate fear, but it's not possible unless somebody just happens to kill your physical body while you're out astral planing. But that's a whole other thing. You always come back to self.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense? Any questions?
It does. I was always told that you have that thin kind of cord behind you and you had to watch out it didn't break.
I've never felt a thin cord or anything. For me, it's kind of like there's a sense of knowing. It's like I know where my body is. I know where my spirit is. When I'm doing it, when I'm awake, there's that knowing. When I do it asleep, it's actually a lot freer. It's if I plan ahead and if I want to hook up with one of my friends or go somewhere and do an investigation or check on things, I'll set up astral in my sleep.
Okay.
And there's actually a lot more freedom there. I can actually move. The hard part is remembering to write everything down when I first wake up.
Okay.
So I can report back. But it's kind of like dreaming while you're awake. Not like daydreaming, but it's vivid dreaming while you're awake, but intentionally. And you control everything.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. I don't think I'd... And when you get to the location you're going to, what is it, if anything, that the energies at the other end can see?
Most of the time they can see me. On the plane, I appear as different things. If I'm doing work with friends, I normally go as a white raven or a white crow because I don't want my energy to be overbearing. I want to be in a support position. If I'm going and I'm in a more aggressive mode, I go as one of my past lives, in the form of one of my past lives, which is Zanatara, Z for short. And I take her form. A lot of my friends know Z. If they go on the field, they recognize Z. Very rarely do I actually use my physical form. And I have been approached by ghosts. When I was doing training with Eric's team who do S4, I went to the tower and I ended up in the castle nearby, and it was Queen Elizabeth, the first ghost, who approached me. I didn't realize that she could see me, and she came over and asked who I was and what was my business, asked me how I got there and if I was alive or dead, and very polite, very engaging. And just like that, was like, okay, very good, carry on, and off she went. And it was like, wow, that's cool. And, you can, I'm using air quotations for those of you who can't see me. You can physically engage on the astral field. You learn to defend yourself out there because you are on another plane, another level of consciousness that isn't just in our minds, but also like a secondary layer of existence upon our own. These things are moving around us, a part of our world, just we're not connected to them in a way that we can engage with them. But when we're on the astral field, we can be engaged by or engage them, which is why you do have to learn to defend yourself. I have been engaged in astral conflict a few times. Once when I was first learning many, many moons ago, and a few times working with Eric's team. And it's really important if you go out there, if you're going with someone, ask them, how do you travel, so you can recognize their energy quickly. And also be able to, don't treat it like D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons or a video game, because this is actually very real. You can come back with bruises and scars or marks.
How would you get them?
You know what? I don't know how you end up with them. I had a professor at University of New Mexico who worked in the psychology field and worked with stuff like that. And I was a freshman, sophomore there. And we were talking about schizophrenia and hallucinations, and I engaged her after class about, well, how do you explain these types of things? And what it is it goes back to the whole thing about if you die in your dreams, you could die. That whatever our mind perceives happens to the physical body. I don't believe in the thing about dying in your dreams and then you physically die. I've died a couple times in my dreams, but I've also died a couple times here and come back.
Show off.
I know. We sat in the shop the other day and counted up all the times I've died and come back, and thank God I'm part cat.
Okay, that's spooky, but okay.
But basically, I've had. In fact, right now I've got them on my body. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll actually see pictures where there's finger marks on my leg from an engagement that I've had with a spirit. And I haven't quite cornered who he is yet. But I've had where I've been cut and I'll wake up where it looks like I've been scratched. Or where I got hit hard, I'll have a light bruising or I'll be sore there. And it's just the body reacting to what the mind is telling it. That's why you have these amazing Shaolin warriors and Shaolin priests and other individuals who are very great meditators and very connected to mind over body, to where they can heal themselves and do things that you wouldn't think the human body could do. But because they've trained their minds and their bodies, especially their minds, to these great levels of discipline, that they can do this. It's really mind over body. You can convince yourself that you're healthy. You can convince yourself that you're sick. That's why they tell you that when you're fighting an illness, 90% of it is how you feel. Are you ready to fight? I had a great doctor who worked with cancer patients, and he said 90% of the time we can fight it, but if the patient gives up before we've even started to fight, it's done. Because it really is mind over body. And when you're out there on the field, it's all mind. So that's why you've got to be careful out there, because it is. You're sending yourself out there in your most vulnerable yet most strong form. And that's why you have to be disciplined. That's why Eric does offer the training classes. And that's why you have to be disciplined and honorable and structured, and there's a certain level of I'm trying to find the right word, but it's a form of discipline and honor combined that allow you to be successful out there. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does. Now, when I tagged along as your question asker, when we went to the property, I basically told you that it was a property of interest, that some things bad happened there, and I was wondering if there was any spirits around. And that's all I said. You went to the property. Excuse me. I think I have visitors here. Could you tell?
Yeah.
Okay. I went to apologize. And because I've always felt that the individuals, the group of us, everyone as an individual knew that something was going on here. And as a group came together to our supervisors who also felt that way, and then the supervisors came together as a group and approached upper management, who came together and went outside the detachment to upper management, all believing that something was going on. And we got pushback all the way. We even passed it on to the unsolved homicide task force. Unfortunately, we didn't have a body, so you can imagine how busy they are with people with the knock on the door saying, "What are you doing about my son who's dead?" We're investigating somebody who may have killed somebody, but we don't know yet. Our gut says this killer has, but we don't have anything firm to go on other than this overwhelming knowledge that it happened. And then the people who had control of the files and ran the missing women task force only out of Vancouver City Police weren't doing anything about it. So it was frustrating. So I've always thought, what else could I have done?
Grandmother says nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. But I do, just for myself, apologize. If anything I could have done different, like turned left or turned right at the wrong moment or right moment, I could have helped somebody. But that's what I carry, and a lot of us do carry. So again, grandmother knows that I'm apologizing, and she knows it's from my heart too. And I hope she can pass that on to the others.
Well, she's with you right now, so.
Okay, that's the weight I'm feeling, like I feel it in my chest. And this just recapping of what we saw when we were there. You were approached by someone. Was the person you were approached by the person now we know as grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. And I gave you a couple of names just out of the blue that you didn't know, and you said crossed over, didn't cross over, hasn't crossed over, and you were getting that from grandmother?
Yeah.
Okay. Now explain to the listener who grandmother is.
When I arrived on the site, I saw something really bizarre, and I was looking at what appeared to be kind of like a mixed-matched village. And this is like it was really weird. But this woman approached me, and she's like, "You're not welcome here. I can't let you go any further." And I had James in my ear asking questions and trying to get me to tag in, but she was really dominant that, I could only go so far. Grandmother, this woman was grandmother, who I've learned she allows me to call her grandmother. She's not a human spirit. She's, I asked her if elemental was correct, or guardian or protector. She describes herself as a guardian and protector. Someone who was sent by Great Spirit to watch over those who were harmed here. I asked her if she was part of the tribe, and she kind of looked at me odd. There's many tribes involved, she says, but we are one tribe. We are one people. We are all one, and I am here out of respect for the one, as there were many hurt here. And I'm here taking care of them while they prepare and make their peace to cross over.
Are there any other beings like grandmother there?
Yes. She just speaks for all of them.
I see. And what do they protect those lost souls from?
It's negative stuff. It's negative. It's like the unsettled graves. The bones are cast everywhere. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of disrespectful activity there. A lot of horrid things. And the way things happened, she says we wouldn't even treat the dogs this bad. And what she's referring to is when dogs were first introduced to the early tribes, they would even treat these beasts better than these women were treated. And she's trying to be very delicate with me, and she knows I'm picking up on a lot of the images right now. But she said that the way the spirits were treated before they left their bodies, it left an impression on the spirits.
Yeah.
This is how we get hauntings, is when an event leaves a scar not just on the body but on the soul. And these entities that were sent by their loved ones, by Great Spirit, are there to help heal them so that they can make the transition over easier. It's kind of like they were kind enough to bring the blue room to them,
okay,
instead of forcing them to go to the blue room.
Now, I'd say the majority of these people who had passed there were not First Nations, or
no.
But are they being looked after too by grandmother?
Yes.
Good. I gave grandmother a gift here. Is she okay with that?
She's showing me something. I can't quite see it, but she says she likes it, so...
Okay.
She thinks you're cute and silly.
Oh, it's like tobacco.
She said tobacco. I just didn't say it out loud. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's special just exactly for gifting. It's got no additives, anything. It's organic. It's strictly for a gift.
Yeah.
For the First Nations, or blessings.
It's for blessings.
Yeah. So I gave some to her.
She says thank you.
As we come up to the end of the first hour here, I just want to give everybody a heads up. We are going to get a little bit deeper into this after the top of the hour here. But baby steps for Skeeter. And for those of you who have actually gone on to Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson on Facebook, and you've seen the pictures, or the members of the SOR Space Travelers Facebook, you'll understand why. The pictures aren't of anything other than a property, a cluttered property. There is no pictures of a hurt person, or probably you'd be hard to find a person.
No,
anywhere.
They're very respectful pictures. I haven't seen them, but grandmother tells me that they're very respectful, and she thanks you.
And the other one is a picture which, before the search warrant happened, was a missing persons photograph from the Joint Forces Missing Women's Task Force. So it's when the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Vancouver City Police, and a couple of other jurisdictions got their poop together and actually went at this full time. And all my love to a guy named John Cater, who carried that box file with him and dragged it around and waved the flag on the behalf of the guys who first worked on this. So lots of love for him. And so I just wanted to lay down a bit of a groundwork what you do in astral traveling and what we saw and who grandmother was. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't know who grandmother was till tonight, because she did come through with a message for me, and as a result of the message, I've been trying to get a hold of a family member of one of the ladies who hasn't crossed over, because grandmother wanted me to have a conversation with him before we did anything. I won't be providing any names on air of the people, if we even cross over somebody here tonight, if grandmother allows us. Most of this will be done, if not all of it. Skeeter and I do this obviously privately, but I did want, the purpose of this show tonight, for my own gut feeling, I wanted to apologize to the spirits that we couldn't get to. And when I mean couldn't get to, couldn't stop this individual from harming them. And I wanted to show you the new way of a paranormal investigation. No running around an area looking for a ghost with IR cameras and microphones and asking if they know that they're past, or can you touch me, and knock 3 times on a wall. Start harassing them. We don't do that. We gently drift in, and those we can touch, we can help. And in this case, these people who haven't crossed with this, and they have the same personality that they did prior to crossing, are lost. They are broken. These women were abused, could have been by family, could have been by a neighbor, but completely derailed their young lives. Some of these girls who went missing in their early 20s had been living on the streets since they were 12, 13 years old. Horrible lives, and all of them have that in common. And it's just getting them to where they should go. And it may not be Skeeter's path right now to move them all, but we'll see. And that's what we want to look at. And unfortunately, we have to pay attention. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but fortunately, we have a guide, and it's grandmother. And when we come back after the 7-minute stretch here, we're going to talk a little bit more about grandmother and see what she'll allow us to do with those who are lost. So stay tuned. Go grab yourself a cup of tea. Relax. This might be a long hour. We'll see you soon.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on 2 mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. 2 mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small, you're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by spacedoutradio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Welcome back, everybody, to Spaced Out Weekend. Thank you for tuning in tonight. It's kind of a special night for me. Getting to say sorry to a lot of souls that I carry a lot of guilt about not being able to help them as a peace officer. You kind of, it's oh man, I lost my breath there. You kind of look back on it, hindsight being, I don't want to get into pointing fingers, but boy, do I ever point fingers. And I want to update everybody tonight that two who may be asking, neither Skeeter Wellhouse or myself are in any chat room tonight because it's all I need to be derailed by one person when I'm actually talking to a couple 100,000 here. So we're staying out of the chat rooms. I'm not going to name the killer. You can go off and do your own research on this. I am because this killer doesn't need to be named, because I don't need to name him, because then I carry that negative energy. I'm carrying enough of that negative energy right now just dealing with the photos of this location. Skeeter's had some photos. She has kind of been overwhelmed. Another thing I want to give everybody a heads up on here. One person had been arrested and charged and convicted with a number of these murders. If some other information comes out tonight, you have to be aware that it cannot be used in court. If we find out that he recruited the guy from the local grocery store to do something, doesn't matter, can't be used in court. That is just the way things go. And I, basically, there are other avenues of investigation that are always ongoing, but I've been out of that for such a long time. I wouldn't have any details on it, but the Skeeter pops out with something. It is what it is. We can leave it at that. I might pass it on, but whatever. We're not going to open that up again right on this show anyway. Skeeter, before we went on the break, we were talking to, we're kind of giving people obviously an idea what was going on, talking about grandmother. I said after the event, or after the search warrant was executed and the archaeological dig went on, and it went on for months, there was a number of healing circles and prayers, First Nations at the gate. And you were telling me off air that that's how grandmother and the other beings were called there, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's I guess what their job is on, and you say they're not human. Would they be kind of an angel realm, or are they earthbound?
She says we're not angels and we're not earthbound. We're something different, but if you want to compare us to angels, that's a good thing to compare us against, but okay. Not exactly.
Okay. They're just really nice beings. Do they look, when you see them, do they look like people? Or are they just energy?
Grandmother looks like a grandmother. I mean, she looks like one of the women I knew off of the Pueblo in New Mexico.
Okay.
So she's coming to me in a form that I can recognize and respect. The others look like things people made of energy, just like these beautiful whites and blues, mostly this beautiful blue energy. And like they're just kind of moving.
You mentioned the Blue Room.
Yes.
In the first hour. Tell the listener what the Blue Room is, and actually where you got the name, the Blue Room.
They told me the name Blue Room. I had heard it somewhere else and kind of giggled, and they said, no, that's what humans call it, and that's what we encourage them to call it. I asked them if it's kind of similar to the Green Room, if you're an actor or been in acting, theater or whatever. The Green Room is kind of where you go to get ready to move on. It's like from the dressing room to the Green Room to the stage. And the Blue Room is from the living realm where all of us are sitting here listening to SOR. You go to, once you pass on or move on, you move on to the Blue Room. And in the Blue Room, you get, it's the debriefing room. You get all the information, you get to ask all the questions. You get a lot of answers. You get to see things. You get your first glimpse of the web, as I call it, where you get to see how your life, your actions rippled out to others, and how others' actions and beliefs and things rippled onto you. And you get to very peacefully come to a point of acceptance of what has come and gone, and you get all the lessons there. Normally, we go to the Blue Room. The Blue Room is part of another plane, another place of thought. It's an amazing place. And for many of us, one of the things that I'm learning as I do more and more of what I do is all of us have our religious backgrounds, our spiritual beliefs, our whatever it is that we believe in or don't believe in. And the Blue Room kind of helps us work through how that is. I have had some spirits come through and they're like, well, I was told I was going to get wings. If I was going to go to heaven and I get wings. And I had a delightful old woman who's the mother of a client of mine, and she's wearing wings. She's like, I was told I was going to get wings, and by God, I was going to get my wings. And they did. They let her have wings, and she's happy as can be. She's like, yay, I got my wings. And all this kind of negotiation stuff goes on in the Blue Room. From the Blue Room, once you're at a point where you're ready to go beyond your lessons, to actually take them from lessons into part of who you are and start making whatever plans for your next journey, whatever that is, your next level of consciousness, whether you're coming back as someone's house cat or drop of rain or whatever your thing is, whether you're moving on, advancing to the next level of consciousness, or returning here for more lessons. This is a place where everything gets sorted out, and then you move on to the web. And from the web is where you move on to whatever you're supposed to move on to next.
Okay. So you were saying that these souls didn't leave the property to go to the Blue Room. The Blue Room was allowed, in this case, to be brought to them.
Yes.
Why is that?
The extreme amount of trauma. There was a large number of individuals who experienced an insane amount of trauma before their death. This is going to sound beep, beep. I'm bleeping myself. This is going to sound really horrid. But we kind of write our contracts as to what's going to happen to us. And when these contracts are played out, we're supposed to learn lessons and do things that help us follow through on that contract. Now, because of free will, some things get altered, but these individuals agreed to a very, very intense contract. And as I wouldn't say a reward or even as a a condolence gift or anything, but as part of that, to aid in the healing of what these individuals went through, and because of the blessings of those who went there and called these spirits to come and help heal this, the Blue Room was in essence brought to them to allow them to come in and out as they need to understand and see why this happened. Now, what people need to understand is when you go into the Blue Room, this is where the joke about seeing your life flash before your eyes occurs. So they are, in essence, reliving every moment until they get the full lesson from it.
And these were beings, humans, they were our sisters who led an incredibly abusive and horrid life.
Yes.
So it wasn't just the last 10 minutes of their 20 minutes, hour of their death. It was, for a 30-year-old, it may have started at 10 years old.
Yep.
So 20 years of that.
And you're going back and you're reliving every moment of that and trying to understand the lesson in it. And trying to understand how to forgive and move on. And that's why when people go to people like me and say, how can I have a better life? How do I get in connection with my better spiritual self? My first thing that comes out of my mouth is you need to learn to forgive.
Yeah.
Whether or not you get the apology, you need to learn to forgive. It's the hardest thing you will ever do. And in the Blue Room, that's where that lesson is applied the most. And if you've had a very rough life, even if they tell you this is what you agreed to, because of free will, there is resentment. There is not understanding. And that's why the Blue Room, for some of these girls, is taking so long, because it's wrapping your head around these lessons.
Yeah, some of these girls went missing in the early 90s. Now, when we went there last week, like I said, I read a few names, and you would say, crossed over, crossed over, crossed over.
Yes.
So, a number already have. Would you say the majority have crossed over?
Yes.
Will grandmother allow us to cross over that one girl that came to us, and I don't want to mention her name?
Will you let us pass her over now? Will you let us pass her over? Not at this time.
Okay. And is it because I haven't got permission?
Yes and no.
Or she just hasn't got to that point yet?
She's still working her way through the Blue Room.
Okay.
And she needs that acknowledgement from family.
Okay. Do you, and I can get that off air one day, we'll actually have her, the family member, come through and talk to you about that, okay?
Okay.
All right. And that's just a secret, private, backroom thing. Is there anybody available to cross over now that we can help?
Is there anyone that we can cross over now? Yes.
Okay. Now, and could you explain to grandmother, or explain to grandmother. She knows how you do it.
Yeah.
Explain what that entails. If no one's listened to you do this before.
What it is that I'm asking grandmother who needs help right now to cross through or to actually get into the blue room and be successful in the blue room. For me, this involves opening myself up. Just a quick disclaimer, I do not recommend doing this unless you had someone teach you or guide you, and this isn't for everyone.
So kids, do not try this at home.
Exactly. But I do open myself up to spirit. I tend to be very open. I was taught to be open. I know many people tell me I need to ground myself, and they'd be amazed at how grounded I really am and how scary it would be if I wasn't grounded. But I do allow spirit to enter my body. I allow them to harness my energy and to use that energy to help them move on into the blue room fully and completely.
Okay.
A lot of these spirits have been in and out of the blue room. So what we're going to be doing is giving them the acknowledgement on their level that someone cares and is reaching out to them.
Okay.
And is willing to give of themselves so that they can move on.
All right. Now, this being an area that is a typical Western area of North America, would have had occupants going back hundreds and hundreds of years. Is there anybody on that land that is of the land that is other than those? Okay.
And they're helping them sort out.
Oh, okay, too.
They're helping grandmother and the others.
Oh, okay. But they haven't crossed either. They're just there.
They've crossed, but they're still here.
Okay. They're crossed, but they're still here. And just for you, Skeeter, if you could ask for the name and just write it down in your notebook there. Yeah, because grandmother was actually pretty good at giving you names. And then I can chalk that off my list.
I got 2 names.
Okay. Fire those
D
on your
name
list.
and an E name.
Okay. Just fire those on your list.
And I'll send them to you later.
Yeah, sure. So whenever you're ready.
And she's even giving me their nationality.
Oh, that's cool. And if you could do what you did last time, and if somebody comes through behind you to greet them, kind of give us a heads up on who came to see them.
I need to turn that off. Give me just a second.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to tell the listener those times in a disaster, in a bad accident, in a horrid death, those times where you take a minute and ask energies to help, pray to God, pray to Spirit, whatever you pray for to help that soul, it works, because that's what happened here. The prayer circles, the shaman at the gate asking for somebody to come through to help those lost souls. It does work, because that's where grandmother came in and her and their job is to, grandmother's a gatekeeper. when Skeeter came in the first time, she was greeted, and it was like, "Halt! Who goes there?" And there was a lot of negotiating going on at that point.
Okay. It's just the one spirit who's going to come through.
Okay.
And she's being allowed to cross through me because me and her are very similar. So it's kind of like it's a comfort thing.
Okay.
I'm going to start opening myself up. Grandmother is watching to make sure that only the one who's allowed to come through at this time comes through.
Mm-hmm.
The audience is encouraged to send love and blessings and healing to this young woman, so that she can understand her path and where it has led her and the good that her death has done in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand that once she gets past this point, she can negotiate a much better contract in the next life. I'm recommending a very spoiled house cat, but grandmother says she should aim higher. But if everyone could send that energy out for this young woman, that'd be very, very welcome at this point.
And my apologies on behalf of my colleagues, too.
They're welcomed and appreciated. James, you know the rules. If I start breaking up, you'd start filling in the blank air, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. I see her. Okay. Hello? You are welcome to use my body and my energy. She says grandmother already told me. Grandmother's right on top of it. Okay, so at the count of 3, hon, I'm going to open up. You'll see a beautiful white light. It's going to take you into that room that you've seen, but I'm going to give you the energy to really see it. She says, okay, she's ready. So, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Wow, she just flew through. Cool.
Good.
It was the other girls who have already crossed waiting for her.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of like they it's kind of like they created their own little sisterhood.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful then.
Oh.
I was thinking it's like, come on in, the water's fine. It's okay. You can come. It's all right.
Oh.
And then you get the other side and they say, did you get your purse? Oh, drat. Skeeter, don't move. I got to get my purse.
She says no purse, but it's awesome.
Okay, good. That was very cool. And we want to thank
grandmother if there's any others.
And we want to thank grandmother for allowing that person to cross at this time.
Are there any others? Yes. Yes, there is another. Shall we have a name?
Okay, don't tell me. Just write it down.
No, I'll write it down if she gives me a name.
Okay.
I'm not allowed a name, but I'm allowed to know what nationality she is.
Okay.
I'm asking if there'll be any others after her.
I don't think so.
No.
No. Did she say no?
Yeah, she said no.
Yeah, it's like I heard it too.
It's just these two.
Okay.
Again, if the audience could please send those healing and helping prayers and blessings. I'm just waiting to get a visual on her. Where are you? Yeah, I got her. Okay, hun. Just like I explained to the other one, you're welcome to use my body and my energy to the most extent that you need it to help you cross into the blue room. Yes, I know you've already been there, but this will help you stay there so that you can get through these lessons and move on. Everyone out there is sending great big prayers for you and the other young lady who just crossed, so please take those as well. At the count of 3, I'm going to have you enter my body. Take as much energy as you need and follow that great big white light into the beautiful blue room, okay? And it's safe. It's all over. Once you go there for good. It's over. I promise. Okay. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Is there a bit of a struggle there?
We're having a talk right now.
Okay.
This is one of the younger victims.
Okay.
Girl, go on through. Go ahead and talk, James.
Okay. If you've just tuned in, we've been permissioned to cross 2 of the women from a property that was occupied by a killer, a serial killer here in Canada, on the western side of Canada. And the property itself is occupied. Well, the property itself right now is just a big pasture with cattle on it. But where this killer was committing the crimes at the time was only maybe 50 meters or less, 50 yards or less, probably a lot less, to a new subdivision that was being built there. And when I was doing surveillance on it, those houses weren't even completed yet. We had keys for them, and we could get up on the top floor and look down at the place. So a friend of mine named Mark was in a tree across the street from the property. About 2 or 3 in the morning, he got complete chills. And he said it was a feeling like people were trying to pull him out of the tree onto the property. And he swore he'd never go back there again. he also later saw the killer come out, get into a backhoe, and start driving it in circles and spinning around in the middle of the night. Got off of it, and the killer started howling at the moon and went back into his trailer. So, yeah, Mark wasn't overly happy about that. He is a very sensitive human being, a very sensitive policeman, and he actually felt the calling from the dead. And this was long before the search warrant was done. Skeeter, could I get you to hang your saxophone up? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone, just hold on a sec. I've got to clean off my keyboard. It's Skeeter just snotted all over it. Are you feeling a little bit better? That took a lot out of you.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. It is what I think is interesting is that when you call, the family and the elders and the shamans come in and they called spirits like grandmother in to watch over them. This is one of those places in history, we don't have to go back too far. It's because the killer is still in prison, and he'll be in prison till he dies. But he's not dead. Therefore, he hasn't gone back to the property in spirit and is tormenting them. If he was to die tomorrow and wanted to go back to the property, would grandmother be there?
Oh, hell no. They wouldn't let him anywhere near.
Good. No, just wanted to check. That was a very quick response. No, hell no. Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to double check that. I always think those are the kind of things that probably happened. I know it's the different religions and different beliefs, but same idea. If you were to go to Auschwitz, they say there are no spirits there. Like, it's not haunted, which it makes sense. Like, if you died in Auschwitz, why go back, or why not leave? But more likely a similar location where those beings that were lost are protected until they finally crossed over.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of cases where the Blue Room has been brought down to individuals, like in Auschwitz, and like this case. I'm guessing
battle, like I would guess places like the Somme in France in World War I, Gettysburg, just horrible, multiple deaths.
Yeah.
Confusion.
And not everybody, it's really hard for them to kind of come through, because even though they're kind of shown the Blue Room and given the chance to go in there, it's Gettysburg, places where she's explained to me that places where there were battles, there's a loyalty there. She says even in Auschwitz there was a loyalty there, and like with these girls, there's a loyalty amongst them, a sisterhood now, where they want to stay and look after each other and help each other and make sure everyone's okay. And one of the things she wants to follow up with is if the individuals involved in harming these girls were to cross and come through, they would be welcome to the Blue Room, because the Blue Room doesn't recognize us as being good or bad. Not in the way that we judge each other. He's also got to go through the Blue Room and see everything and learn his lessons the way these girls are learning their lessons. Those who did the harm in Auschwitz have to go through that same room and see everything. Mm-hmm. The thing is, and she wants us to make very clear, and me and you have talked about this before, when he enters the room, he will not be told that he is condemned to hell. As these girls enter the room, they are not being told that everything is is good or bad. It just is. It is. These girls are seeing how their lives impacted others and how their deaths have actually changed things for the better. When he dies, he's going to get to see what he did to each and every girl.
Has he experienced that feeling too?
He's had some things, but she says he's kind of not connecting it yet. His mental state is not allowing him to really grasp.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you this question on air, and you can ask grandmother. Was he the only one involved in this?
No.
Okay. And is he... will that other person ever be prosecuted? No. Yeah, I didn't think so. Was that did that other person stop doing anything like this?
Will this person stop? Not fully.
Okay. Well, can you ask grandmother if I will go over and put a bullet in that person's head? No.
She says, no, you're not that lucky.
Yeah, I'm also not that kind of guy. So, because then I'll be in the blue room for way too long. I already have a problem forgiving myself for stuff I've done. And that's not even bad stuff. It's just stupid kid stuff. I have a question, and maybe grandmother can help you with this. I was at a place called the Rio Theater with Canadian Paranormal on Thursday night, I think it was. And Derek White Skycloud and myself and James Vincent, Kelly Buckler from Canadian Paranormal were in the theater.
She likes White Cloud.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She's the one that likes him. I wondered. I knew somebody had to like him. I'm kidding. So Derek was, we were all hanging out in the ladies' room. Long story.
Oh,
but
good.
It's a very haunted location. Derek was approached by a Russian lady. And at the time, Derek did get her name, both first and last name. And while we were talking to her, a lady came out of the bathroom stall. And Skeeter, I'm going to send you a picture of the front of this place via Skype. Okay. And a lady came out of the stall, and Derek said she looked at me, and she said, "That guy, he knows what to do." And I took that as I knew how to get her over. And I said to Derek, "Does that mean she knows that I want, or knows I can cross her? I can help crossing?" And he said, "Yes." And now she's come up to you, and she's standing right in front of you. And of course, I'm me, so I can't see a darn thing. But I believe she's a lady who may have passed from a heroin overdose or a drug overdose in there.
Can you help with this, grandmother? Yes. But did she die of drug-related death? Yes. Is she the woman that James thinks it is? No.
Okay. Does she have a name for the person? Because we got a name, and this one you can give it to me. So, because I need to look her up too.
Can you give me a name? No.
Okay.
Can you give me a name? Yes. Can you give me a name? No. No.
Okay. Because we got the name Elena or Elna, something like that. Elena, show off. Is that what she gave you?
Yeah.
Okay, Elena. Elena is the one that I believe said he knows what to do. And
yes.
If that person is there and you can go see them, do you mind crossing her over I felt really sad.
She says you knew who to connect her with to get her to cross over.
Yeah.
So that's why she hung out with you.
Oh, okay.
She's the other spirit hanging with you.
Oh, cool. Well, I can give her just some tobacco, too. I'm just taking a little bit from grandmother's.
Yeah, grandmother's laughing.
Okay. That's total chills from the small of my back, right up my left cheek, all over my arm. Thanks, ladies.
They're picking on you, just so you know. They're getting...
I know. It's not like my dad grabbing my collar and hauling me back in the chair. These are a little more comfortable. Okay, focus on...
Helena. Grandmother, can you help me cross over? Okay, she can't help me cross her over, but who do I ask? Okay, I'll ask him. And I'll shrink this down so I can focus on him. Okay. I've been given permission by the guide that the deity that she identifies with to help her cross over. She's ready. She's a little scared because, hell.
Oh. Don't worry about it.
We're just explaining that's not how it works. I'm going to ask the audience again to provide thoughts of well wishes, love, and healing. She's pretty. I can see her. It's I want to say it's like a blonde, like a dark blonde, golden blonde. I'm asking her if that's her real hair color. It's darker, she says. In real life, it was darker.
Women. Jeez. We're crossing over spirits, and you're talking about hair products.
Well,
what kind of shoes is she wearing?
Sure.
Okay.
She's not wearing... Grandmother says be careful or she'll wrap your ear.
Yes, dear.
I'm just trying to give you some information about her so that you can go back and look her up. But she's a little scared, and grandmother's helping me explain to her, and so is this other deity, that there's only the hell that we create for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually here in life. Okay, she's ready. Okay, hon, like I've sold the others. I'm going to open myself up at the count of 3. All you have to do is just step into my body, pull on my energy, and as you do so, you'll see this really magnificent, the deity is saying it's a brilliant blue white light. It's like looking at the most beautiful blue sky you've ever seen. And it's completely cloudless. And he's telling me to tell you that all you have to do is step into it. Just follow your feet, one in front of the other, and know that he is standing on the other side, holding his hand out, waiting for you. And all is forgiven. There is no sin, no condemnations. I'm sorry. It's all forgiven. And it's all love. So at the count of 3, everyone can send their good love and prosperity and healing. Elena, let's go. 1, 2, 3. I love it when it's like that.
And that's Skeeter crossing over somebody that I actually ran into on Thursday night in a local theater, which was filmed for a cable TV show, which, of course, we weren't on it, but they were filming at the time in the place. So they gave us a quick 5-minute interview, and I guess they wanted us to know, or wanted to ask us if there were lots of ghosts in the place or some silly thing. But yeah, we did a 10-minute investigation. We'll go through the audio in 35 seconds and show it to you. While I got you focused on that theater, I have sent you, and I'm posting a couple of pictures, again in Spaced Out Weekend and in the Space Travelers. These are photographs that I took, and they're kind of hard to see on a big computer because I zoomed in on the ones. But these are photos that I took of, or a photo that I took of a floating head across the stage. And then the second one where it looks like it's filled up, or a blob, that's just a clip of the floating head itself. And of course they don't look like anything once I post them on my 32-inch monitor here. They're all fuzzy. Well, keep awake, will you?
I'm trying.
You're trying. Come on, you've got like 11 minutes. Don't make me pull this car over. Could you tell me if that is something that's, as I would call, paranormal, or is that just a light phenomena that I ended up bumping into on my...
Are you still with me, grandmother? Yes. Is this image a spirit? No. Is it light phenomena? No. Is it something not human? Yes. Is it something that was trying to connect with James? No. Yes. Is it something that was trying to connect with James? No. Is it something that was trying to connect with James? No. Okay, no. Was it just there in general? Yes.
Cool.
So, there you go.
So it's non-human. It's just a being of some sort? An entity?
Energy.
Energy?
She says it's kind of like something, a memory, residual, playing over and over.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a residual.
Energy. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just wondering why it was a floating head. It's like, I guess the rest of the body wasn't available at the time that photo was taken. Okay. And again, that's at Space Out Weekend with James Tyson. If you go there, I've added the photos. And like I say, they're really crappy to see on the computer. But if you were here in person, they look a lot better. Actually, the one before I enlarged the little view of it, it looks like it has a face and the woman's hair. But yeah, it's very cool. We're going to end up going back to that place, and Elena, that was really cool. So Elena wasn't First Nations?
Is Elena First Nations? Yes. Is Elena First Nations? Yes. Yes, she is.
Cool. That's because that would have been the one that came to me through Derek. White Sky Cloud. Okay.
She likes
Derek. Yeah. Does Derek know her?
No.
Would she like to meet Derek? Or I guess she already has.
She knows him. He's still learning about her.
He's still learning about a lot of stuff. Which is good. Because we all have to keep learning. And yeah, Derek, one of those crazy semi-shamans who get picked up by an alien. So he's, of course, going both ways. Like he's like, what do you see today, Derek? Aliens, ghosts? Oh, got a ghost in a spaceship. Hey, can there be a ghost of an alien?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Can there be... Hey, why are there no dinosaur ghosts?
There are. You're just not paying attention.
Okay. All right. So I'm walking around a place with my Zach Bagans kit, asking every little shadow in the place to touch me, and then scream when it happens and run screaming down the hall. I used to be a wedding DJ. But so I'm looking for a ghost in Saskatoon, Alaska. And I'm in some old house, and there happened to be a mastodon ghost hanging out outside. How come I can get a photograph of a ghostly image of Grandpa, and I don't see 7 mastodons, a saber-toothed tiger, and one of those giant Pithecus beavers in the background?
She says, James, you should already know the answer to that one, and it's simple. Animals don't linger the way humans do. Humans form attachments, so we come back and we linger. Animals understand the cycle much better.
Oh.
That's why they're able to still see ghosts when humans don't. That's why your dog barks at the corner, or your cat watches the ceiling. She says for them, they're able to cross over a lot more easily. And if you want to see dinosaur ghosts, come with me to the Redwoods this summer, and I will show you some great dinosaur ghosts.
I will be in the Redwoods, possibly June, July. I don't know. I'll be down there about end of July. We've got some paracons or something, ghost things, Sasquatch things going on.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to get a list of those, because I'm also going to Sturgis, South Dakota, on my motorcycle this year, and I'm stopping in at we're going to have to do this one, Skeeter. You have to remotely view the RCMP Training Academy, or called Depot Division, in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Ooh.
The oldest building in Regina is there. It's actually the chapel. That was the mess hall at one time. So, and I know the museum there is creepy. It's really cool, but if you're there by yourself at night, it's kind of creepy. Well, it's mostly full of mannequins, too. That really doesn't help. All you had to do was add 3 dolls and a clown, and there'd be shots fired. Shots fired in the museum. What's going on? Oh, it's just James again. Don't worry. We gave him the blanks again.
Oh,
Last
good.
time he shot up 3 mannequins. And a stuffed horse. There was a stuffed horse in there. This is the horse the Mounties used to ride. Yes, this one. Just one. This is it.
Turns, huh?
Yes, there was postcards made with him sitting on this. Skeeter.
Yes.
Thank you very much for doing this, and I feel like a load's lifted off of my heart. I am, for the listener out there, I will be getting a hold of... it's really hard to say this, but I'm getting hold of a very prominent person who is a relative of one of the girls that's we would like to cross eventually. And we will try to cross as many as we can with grandma with grandmother. And we will be kind of taking a cue from her on what we can and cannot do, like we kind of took from William the other week. But how's your storefront going there in Tacoma, Washington?
We are growing. You can actually, if you go on my Facebook page, you can actually find a video of me giving you a quick tour. The Magical Garden down in Tacoma. We just got our apothecary installed, and we're getting herbs and stuff. We have one of the largest selections of herbs for magical and other uses. And soon I will be putting in the door to my office, so you can have private sessions with me, both healing and otherwise. And tomorrow, if you just happen to be in the Seattle area, come hang out with me at Spooked in Seattle at the Metaphysical Market down on Cherry Street.
Cool.
And next weekend, if you happen to be in Tacoma, come over to the Magical Garden. We will be having a psychic fair. And I will be offering everything from a 3-card reading to opening the door, which is a hands-on psychic experience. Believe me, you'll never be the same once you've been through one of those with me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
and
you saw
remember,
me do that to people
yes.
at one.
Yeah, I lost $300 in some 3-card thing she was showing me. Tomorrow night on the shift, when Skeeter gets her butt home from Seattle, we have a special guest, Benoit Andromont, who is actually a guy who studied, he's an engineer from France who studied Nostradamus.
Yeah, Nostradamus is
he's
excited.
He's decoded the Nostradamus, he's broken the Nostradamus code. And he's going to explain that to us in his wonderful French accent tomorrow. And be careful, he could fall in love with you. I'm tired. Yeah, that's tomorrow night on the shift. Yeah, that's going to be kind of cool. I want to thank everybody for putting up with us tonight and allowing me not to peek into a chat room, either getting upset or having to think about a question. And thanks, Skeeter. As always, you are a wonderful, wonderful channel between us and them. And I'm learning a lot. And I'm wishing I could do what you do. Actually, no. Baby steps. Baby steps. How about, baby steps. And thank you, Grandmother, for helping. And for everybody out there, please just keep an open mind.
That's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.
Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing and they go, what are those voices? Look over the mountain, because somebody died, somebody better. Through the hail, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. We are after you, dead or alive. We are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget your soul. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after now. Run through the hail, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you, dead or alive. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done, throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after. No!
I see dead people.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave's not here!
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
This has